Hi, this is Vicki Jervicus at the Greater Gainesville Chamber of Commerce, and I'm delighted to welcome Gabriel today. He is one of our candidates for our upcoming special city election for the vacated seat, and that election is coming up on November 16th. So we're going to spend a little time with Gabe and have him tell us all about himself and why he's running for this seat. So Gabe, welcome.
I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you again. I will tell you, from my perspective, the world has changed greatly locally, and this election is indicative of it. It is a strange election, and it got stranger today. The Gainesville Sun today, that is Thursday, October 28th, endorsed what I'm calling the Great White Hope. But worse, it did not mention Commissioner Henry, who is running again. You may recall I endorsed Commissioner Henry last time, which was in March of this year. The irony of today's editorial is that the Gainesville Sun endorsed Commissioner Henry 8 months ago. Today, it did not mention him. And in addition to that, I tried to get the original editorial online, and through the Sun, you can't do it. At least I couldn't do it. This election is peculiar, and I am calling one of the opponents Great White Hope because Gail Johnson, who previously held this seat, was the first Black in modern times to win an at-large city election. To replace her at this point by a white candidate who is new, I should point out that his credentials include all 3 years with the Trump administration in Washington, D.C., before he decided to return to Gainesville. I just think, given the circumstance, that it's imperative that either Cynthia Chestnut or Sherwin Henry, the two African Americans, prevail. I honestly would ask, under the circumstances, former Commissioner Henry to step aside. If his presence divides the Black vote, which it will, it's going to force a runoff. If it's a runoff between Cynthia Chestnut and the new Great White Hope, it will be clear that votes for this newcomer are by whites who have a definite preference against voting for any Black, because there's no question that Cynthia is maybe old-fashioned, maybe outdated, but in fact, she's got the experience and background to certainly serve in the turmoil. But as you know, the turmoil on the city commission has been incredible since we last talked. Not only did Gail Johnson resign, but we've had 3, 4 charter officers resigning and one critical one.
Well, now, not surprising, Gabe, we actually have a question about that. Did you want to go through the questions?
If I can finish, I will try to do so. Okay. And I certainly will go back to it during the question.
All right.
But in the midst, among the resignations were that of Omi Gainey. The confusion of this election is that there is no legal support for it. It's unclear whether the city or state is supposed to be running it, and they can't make up their minds. Why is Omi critical? She resigned knowing this election was about to happen, because she resigned after Gail Johnson withdrew. Now, she could say, okay, I'm staying on and finishing my term, but her coming back just confused the matter. What I'm saying is this election is chaos. I have only one issue. What I care about is to make Gainesville Butterfly City again. And that's very critical because of what it speaks towards this city's image, how it got removed to begin with by the current mayor, and the danger is it will never come back under the next mayor, who I will be seeking, who I will be opposing again. I probably would not have run knowing what I know now, that there would be 2 other white contestants. I did not mean to run to seriously win. I want to make an issue of the make Gainesville a Butterfly City again. Commissioner Henry supported that last time, which is why I supported him. I supported him again this time in the belief that he hadn't changed his mind about making Butterfly City again. But given the dynamics that I described, I think we've got a major problem in the outcome of this election.
Okay, well, I think you'll find these questions, and again, I have told all the other candidates and reminded our viewers that no one had the questions ahead of time, so no one knows what's coming, but I think you'll find that you can speak to several of these questions just from your opening. So the first one is, what do you perceive are the three most important concerns facing Gainesville right now?
I think the issues clearly are trying to calm down the turmoil at the city commission level. Critically, I think a new era of honesty is imperative. Part of the reason for this confusion and the resignations and the like are that there are hidden, unseen, ugly issues. The ugliest being a tension between Christian Blacks and Jews like me. The last two city commissioners were Jewish. One of the commissioners, Rena Thakow, who was elected last time, openly, according to the Gainesville Sun, accused Gail Johnson of being anti-Semitic. I can state that Gail Johnson has never been empathetic to any of the Jews that she's been involved with, which includes Harvey Budd, who she defeated the first time, myself, and the two commissioners. Ironically, Gail and I were on the same page in opposing Anthony Lyons. Lyons is a major part of the problem. The city, Gainesville again, Sun reported that his corporation is going to be building this wonderful project on Lot 10 that involves a grocery, apartments, and the like. The Sun went at great length, not to mention this was the same Anthony Lyons who had been ousted as city manager. Okay, Gail Johnson is quoted as if she didn't recognize the old debate, as if this project is really good and should move forward. The key to Lyons being in that role is the moderating effect he's had from day one in total favor of developers, realtors, developers, realtors, and contractors. And he could care less whether the building is done by whites, blacks, or whom. And the problem is Gainesville City is committed to the idea of supposedly small business use of African Americans, women, and Hispanics. And it's had a dismal record. The Depot Park area that we so love at this point, the development over 20 years involved 5 contractors, all of whom were white. And that was pointed out by City Commissioner Gostin, who himself got into trouble for his kind of candidate. We've got to deal with that candidness up front. What is going on between Black Christians and Jews? And may affect gays as well, I should point that out. Because clearly, not only Black churches, but many established conservative churches still have a great problem with LBGTQ issues.
Okay, well, the next question is going to go right back to, I think we'll hear a little more about the Butterfly City issue, because the next question is, what would be your top priorities and projects were you elected?
Well, I think the importance of getting back to Butterfly City is that cities really, except for doing what City Commission did, endorsing the green, I forget the concept for, but the AOC concept of greenery, et cetera. It can do a little, except in a symbolic way. The butterfly is critical. In fact, since we started and since we removed Butterfly City, a number of Florida cities have come up with monarch cities. The key is the monarch butterfly. Why? Because of its miraculous journey that has been covered extensively between North America, and it goes down around Halloween, or what they call the Day of the Dead, around this time of year, to the Sierras in Mexico, in a given area. And that symbolic journey has been followed regularly in the media, because the number of monarchs have been distinct constantly lowering over the years, though there's been some upticks. The loss of the monarch population is attributed to the abuse of Roundtree weed killer. Roundtree, no, not Roundtree, Roundup.
Yeah, Roundup.
I'm having trouble. Use my 86-year-old memory. I'm having trouble remembering that. Anyhow, so its symbol is important. Your chamber, interestingly enough, still listed as a butterfly city started correctly in 2009. It seems to be oblivious of the fact that Lauren Poe deliberately not only removed it, you have to understand physical ramifications have occurred. He took down every sign around the city. There were 11 around the city. It's come down from City Hall. It can't be raised on an agenda again. He did it at a strange time. That is during public comment when it wasn't even on agenda. You can't go back and find where he did it. I obviously have COVID so that I can go back to it. But the importance of this issue, as I say, is symbolic. The city was registered as the first butterfly city, perhaps in the world. In 2019, I first started to run for the commission because Poe went a step further. He rejected the idea of a sister city relationship with a butterfly city in England that had just sprung up. It was an ideal relationship between two countries that have been allied for years and not without language difficulty, etc. We just ignore it. The next mayor is going to ignore it as well. That's why it's critical that somebody speak up. I would hope Commissioner Henry would do that, but as I say, it's more critical to step aside.
Okay. All right. Well, let's go to the next question, which you've already a little bit talked to in your opening, but this is an opportunity to say a little more about it. The city commission has experienced unusually high turnover, both on the commission and on the staff. What skills would you bring to this office that might make a difference there?
Well, total, and very important question. The skills I bring are 52 years as a lawyer. This commission, in my time since 1992, has had only one lawyer, and he deferred totally to the city attorney. You may know as well, one of the commissioners, one of the charter officers who stepped down is Nicole Shalley. Well, Nicole Shalley and Marion Radson were the only city attorneys between 1985 and the present. Okay, the person who is chosen is really problematic as the interim. The person who is the city attorney, interim city attorney, is the husband of a sitting county, husband of a sitting circuit court judge, Denise Ferraro. That's outrageous. It should have been caught years ago. Nobody in the city seems fine. Why am I emphasizing the law? Nobody's following the law. Your question doesn't even follow the law. This is a charter-run city. The 6 officers, particularly the city manager, particularly the city attorney, going back to 1923, were appointed to bring professionalism to the city. The city cannot talk to employees. Elected officials cannot talk to employees. That's ignored entirely. The turmoil is created because they do talk to employees and treat the city manager, city commissioners, et cetera, as if they're employees, as you put as staff. They're not staff in the city by law. But nobody, including the Sun, seems to care or recognize that. Talk is about whether we should have a strong mayor, as if that's, I don't think the concept is understood. I lived under a strong mayor for 7 years in Orlando. It is a very formatted way of dealing in which everything is passed through the city mayor. The administrators are just that, they are staff, it's clear. And it functions better or worse, but it's a clear government. This model, what the next mayor is going to come in on this manager situation, the next mayor is going to be a strong mayor because his personality has so dominated the city commission since 2000. I guess he's finishing his second term for the last 6 years. His personality is totally dominated and will continue to dominate. And so that's not what anybody should mean by a strong mayor.
Okay. All right. Now, this next question is, it's unfortunate that we're still dealing with this, but we are. So the question is, COVID-19 continues to present issues within our community and our state. what actions do you think we need to be taking locally to continue to move forward?
For me, the question is very troublesome because it's a legal issue that nobody else is going to pay attention to. We're all goody two shoes. We hate Governor Santos playing with masks, and certainly I'm for vaccinations and I'm for masks, but I can tell you that there is intellectually a problem with each, particularly with regard to vaccinations of children between 5 and 11. How that came about, who was used without consent is beyond my knowledge, okay? But we cannot continue to operate in this anarchic vacuum. It's not a local issue. We can protect healthcare workers. I would do that, or frontline responders. Yes, if the city can find a way to either direct money to them for their protection and the like, that's fine. But to keep paying lip service about we want masks, et cetera, does nobody any good. Okay, I mean, it's like, again, it's like you cannot have city commissioners who are just there to be spokespeople. Yes, as candidates, we can do that, which is why I'm running. But as a city commissioner, there's a job to be done. They don't seem to recognize.
Okay, all right, and then this last question I'm told is pretty direct, so it's going to be direct. Why should members of the business community vote for you?
As I'm already suggesting clearly, I do not intend for them to vote for me.
Okay.
I do intend for them to please both be conscious of this butterfly city issue, that they should care, and they should lobby to both the candidates and to city commissioners for this. It will be the best thing for small business going. I hate to, a mistake, a gaffe was told to me by an important person for the chamber. That bothers me to this day. When I raised the issue of Butterfly City, that person said to me, hey, let's tell you, everybody knows what the butterfly capital is. The difference in word is day and night. The outfit that wanted it to be the butterfly capital is the University of Florida. They've already misused the symbol for a fake Sebastian Ferraro Foundation that I will be suing along with the University of Florida. This issue becomes important while it seems to be minor for the reasons that I'm suggesting. And so that small business should be conscious. It would be lovely if every city small business had in their window a sticker, we're Butterfly City or something to that effect. Have our logo. I'm into right now trying to protect our logo, which is what was promised to us by the city in 2008 and never occurred. And part of the reason was because the Sebastian Ferraro used a butterfly for its symbol during the time it was raising fortunes for the standalone Shands Hospital. But it did it on a basis of a total false representation. So all I'm saying is let's bring back honesty. Let's have real discussions about real issues. The idea that we can keep going and count on the Gainesville Sun to describe to us what is happening is frightening. It's like we're in Plato's cave where we're looking at shadows and talking about shadows, and a real world is happening out there.
Okay. All right. Well, as promised, now this is your last couple of minutes to tell us anything else you wanted to share, anything else you feel we should know heading into November 16th.
Yeah, yes. I think it's critical to understand that the way the city elections have been structured since 2018, an agreement was made between the supervisor of elections and the city of Gainesville to allow the local city clerk to run the local elections. Turned out to be a deliberate disaster. It was created brilliantly by one of the commissioners who advocated being mayor from day one and assembled his own crew. Rena Sacco is a total, she's obligated to that commission in the worst way. Adrian Santos, who may run to be an at-large seat now that he has to leave his district seat, is totally a bobblehead, is the way I would call him, for the same city commissioner who's going to be our next mayor. And it's like right now, I'm concerned. I still think Cynthia Chestnut will win regardless of the entry and support for the Great White Hope. But the way she will enter will be a very very questionable role in the way the election is going to turn out. So I'm going to be in the race again to challenge that next white mayor, but it's got to be understood by the chamber, especially what that means. They may love it, but the disparity between blacks and white, I will guarantee, will increase enormously under his rule. He is totally indifferent to the east side of Gainesville, whatever lip service he may pay. And the point is that both Gail Johnson and Gigi Simmons and Desmond Walker, all the three black women, know that he was a problem. And they can't, because of the subtle way we communicate with one another, they can't say so. But I'm here saying so as a candidate and as a person who really cares about Gainesville, different from some of the old timers who were here in the days of segregation, whose parents lived through Jim Crow happily, both black and white. We are still accepting a disparity between races in this city that should depress anyone, including the chamber. Oh, I want to speak particularly to those of the small businesses that are focused totally west of 13th Street or west even of Main Street. You've got to pay attention to the fact that you are depleting East Gainesville and continue to do so. It is a problem for West Gainesville, okay? You are discouraging businesses from coming in, especially minority businesses. I mean, one of the things that we don't recognize is that there are no banks in that neighborhood. There are no movie theaters, critically. I mean, the idea that children in Gainesville can go through their lives without any access to a normal movie theater before COVID-19 is outrageous to me. I could go on, but my focus is on race and class. The chamber is a very enlightened chamber. I really, the small business people I've run into are very enlightened. But on these issues, you can start with make butterflies, they Gainesville Butterfly City. Thanks for your time. I really appreciate it.
All right. Well, thank you, Gabe. And we at the chamber encourage everyone to get out and make their voices heard and vote on November 16th. Thanks again, Gabe.
Thank you.